there's this sort of Buddhist idea that actually joy is what gives us the strength and the capacity to stay with all of the discomfort and pain in the world. And so, yeah, to me, joy is a really important part of this work. My name's Erin Fowler. I'm a choreographer and maker of works that kind of cross a number of disciplines, and I'm here for the Mill Dance Residency. During the residency, I'm working on a new show called FAFF, which is an ensemble movement comedy piece. It consists of an 8-person cast made up of dancers, actors, and performers with clowning experience, and really came out of my feeling of overwhelm in the state of the world at the moment. You know, we're living in the polycrisis, late stage capitalism. It feels like every time you watch the news or go on to social media, there's just another crisis. And I felt very overwhelmed by that and started to explore this central question of how do I experience joy when it feels like the world is dying? So how I experience joy is inviting 8 of my favourite collaborators to come into the studio and explore the idea of a central character who is the protagonist that I play, who escapes from the overwhelm of the world by disappearing into a Regency fantasy world. One of the things I'm exploring or theorising is that we don't really have many cultural tools for exploring grief, for exploring discomfort, for sitting in stillness, for being in the kind of fallowness of nature, which requires that time of darkness and inactivity to be able to then renew again, to come back. It's based around the Celtic wheel of the year, the sort of culture and time that we live in. We go through spring, summer, and then we don't really live the energetic winter. How I'm looking at the shape of the work as well, which is in 4 different parts. We begin in summer, where the protagonist is in this very kind of hopeful, romantic, maybe idealistic space of that nothing could ever go wrong. And then as she kind of evolves through the work, she goes through these seasons of feeling her guilt, her overwhelm, where eventually she has to face, I guess, really death and loss of control and slowness, which are all themes that I find deeply uncomfortable, but also a quite rich ground for exploration. I'm working with Will Spartalis on sound and music. The sound design and the music is really important to kind of create that fantasy world. And then I've also been working with Fowler, which is Amber Cronin and Tom Borges, who have been design consultants and helping me create these really kind of geometric white blocks which become the set pieces. And I really didn't want to recreate another Austen theatre show where we have to have every piece of clothing and it's a sort of full version of Austen. I really wanted it to be quite pared back, and I think the malleability of the blocks being able to form different shapes is really interesting to me and makes it less about a kind of idealisation of Austen and more about this idea of created worlds. Residency opportunities like this are really pivotal for early stage development work. I think that it gives time for ideas to be seeded, time to trial ideas in front of an audience without it having to be the full thing. So I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity. It's really lovely working in this space, like having been a part of its foundation, the breakout space. I've made a lot of works here and it really does feel like coming home. And it's such a supportive space. It feels really nice to come full circle with so many peers and community that have been a part of the mill over the years. That feels really lovely. I think the biggest challenge of solo work is you often end up just lying on the floor going, what am I doing? Whereas I don't have that privilege when I have 8 faces looking at me going, what are we doing next? That's been a really big growth point for me, is kind of being the one that's holding the room and definitely relying on the creativity and the offers from the people in the room, but also getting more comfortable with that kind of outside director role and kind of guiding the room versus grappling with my own discipline when it's solo.